We've got some preseason games on the horizon for Philadelphia, but first we have to dive in to a really exciting rookie from a season ago in Darren McCain. So much more right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Locked On 76ers. We're your host, Keith Pompey, 76ers beat writer. I'm Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Bluecoats, the 76ers NBA G League affiliate. If you're watching us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check us out at our free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LockedOnNBA at MonarchMoney.com for 50% off your first year. And we will talk a little bit later on about the Abu Dhabi games that the 76ers will be playing the Knicks. But first, we're going to have to talk about Jared McCain. And the biggest thing that we look upon with Jared McCain here, Keith, starter or not, which is a conversation we had this season, and now we're looking at it going into 2025-26 as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a tough question, right? I mean, when you look at Jared McCain, is he a starter in this league? Can he be? I feel like he can. I do. The only question that I have is, can he become a starter in this league full-time over an extended period of time playing next to Tyrese Maxey? And I know they had a couple games, and I went viral for saying one thing one day about asking them about a small backcourt, and they're like, "I'm taller than you." That's tough, right? But here's the thing. I like Jared McCain. I think Jared McCain can get starter minutes in this league, right? I don't know if him and Tyrese Maxey are the best lineup that they could have together, assuming they get a guy like Quentin Grimes, right? Because Quentin is a taller guy, where McCain's 6'1", Quentin is 6'5", and I feel like that his strengths on the defensive end will help them out more so than what McCain can do. So me right now, and I get it, I know that he lit it up. He was playing great. He was hitting all these threes. He was doing stuff that we haven't seen since Michael Jordan, right? Seriously, since Michael Jordan's rookie year, he was putting up numbers early since then. However, I just feel like that because of his small stature around Tyrese Maxey, that's not sustainable over an 82-game schedule. But I do think that he can come off the bench and be that spark plug. You get staggered lineups. And, he's the type of guy that I feel like you bring him off the bench, but you give him starter minutes, but you bring him off the bench. Because if not, I think him and Tyrese Maxey could end up being a defensive liability.
Let me start with this, too. McCain, and I've said this on record so many times this year, shocked me this season because I was on the verge of you don't get Dalton Connect, and maybe Jared McCain's a guy that might have to be on assignment to the Delaware Bluecoats. He blew me away this year. Do not get me wrong. But we saw towards the end of the season, some teams did kind of figure out how to defend him. His productivity wasn't necessarily what we were seeing throughout the entire season. It was still very good, but teams were starting to figure out how to defend him. And I think that they become a little bit limited with him and Tyrese Maxey on the floor together at the same time as starters. I'm in a situation where I feel that Jared McCain can really be a sixth man of the year type player coming off the bench for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, lineups can change. I do think that this is predicated too on who they draft, where they go in the draft, where they end up in the lottery, because that can also change a lot. If for some reason they go with a guard, which I don't really know if they go that way, we'll wait and see. Then there's a lot of questions where McCain will be pushed to. But at the same time, in my mind, he is a sixth man of the year type player. I kind of assess him too when Lou Williams was on the 76ers and he was backing up Drew Holiday. That's what I look at it right now between Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. And don't get me wrong, I could see there being a matchup where Nick Nurse says, hey, Jared, you're going out there for the starter. Let's try something new. Or if guys are sitting due to back-to-backs, whatever that may be. But at the same time, if you're talking to us about what do you want to see game one of the season if everything works out the way it's supposed to, I see Jared McCain as that spark plug, as the sixth man off the bench, because I think that he brings that extra elevation in a lot of where Maxey may be on the bench getting some rest without having the both of them together, because I think that they become, and I know that they become from seeing what we saw, a little bit limited if both of those are on the floor, and that's the lineup they're throwing at other teams.
Yeah, and the thing is, see, here's the thing. If you say to me, can Jared McCain lead an NBA team right now? No, he can't.
No.
And that's the part of the thing is when he started getting exposed, and you're right, there was one game where he shot 25% from three. You know, there was a couple games. There was one stretch where he went 0 for 7. Another time he went 0 for 3. So in the 2-game stretch, in the game before that, he went 2 for 11. But what happened was those were games where people were injured. And all of a sudden he became the first option. And then that's when he was exposed from that standpoint. I feel like he will play well as long as he's on the court with other elite guys, because let's face it, when Jared McCain leads the huddle and teams are game planning, as long as you got Paul George and Tyrese Maxey out there, and along with Joel Embiid, if your game plan is to shut down Jared McCain, then you might get fired because the other dudes are going to get they're all
Right.
going to have 35 against you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. So right then and there, that to me, that exposed that, you know what? He's a good player, a good young player, but there are certain things that he has to get better at. I think he will, but right now he's just not on that level. Now, the one thing I will say is he would have been the rookie of the year. Most likely. He would have been the rookie of the year. Mm-hmm. But, some people might say, bruh, he only played 23 games. I get it. But at the same time, the things that he were doing, it was extremely successful. But I do think that he needs to be out there with other players. And the thing that really gets me is just on the defensive end. I feel like he'll have a tough time guarding bigger guards.
Listen, the Sixers would have been a play-in team if Jared McCain was healthy all this year and didn't get hurt. Even to me, without Paul George and without Tyrese Maxey, without Joel Embiid, him playing Quentin Grimes and seeing those two go at it. I don't know if they would have won in the play-in tournament, but I don't think they would have been in the situation they were at this season. But Jared McCain, he is somebody to me too that when you see a rookie come in and being able to get his with other stars around, that's what stuck out most to me, because this is the conversation in similarity we've had about Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes can really do it himself. He can do it when he's the main guy. Will he be able to kind of temper that back a little bit and not have the ball in his hands as much and be able to have that same productivity? We've already been able to see that with Jared McCain, and that is really big to me from somebody that is a rookie that is still able to go out there and be successful when you have a guy like Tyrese Maxey and Paul George on the floor. Now with Jared McCain, he's going into his second year. He's coming off a big injury. So I do think that he might start off a little bit slower than a lot of people are anticipating just because of that injury. But at the same time, the good news to me is that you already see that he can play with those guys. And that's just another weapon that you can have. And to me, Keith, Jared McCain's somebody that he might not be in the starting lineup, but he might be out there in crunch time with the 5 last on the floor trying to go out there and win a game and get a victory.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on him, just yet. Because I said he has some weaknesses that he needs to work on, but at the same time, I think he's a good player to blend in and do the things that he can. And he like you said, he proved a lot. I mean, he's motivated to show that he can do more. The only thing is just my only concern with him. I like him a lot. My only concern is he and Tyrese Maxey sustain what they're doing. And to me, especially when you have a guy like Quentin Grimes, and let's face it, Quentin Grimes is expected to get the bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jared McCain is still on that rookie deal, right? So you're going to spend all this money for somebody that you want to come off the bench. You know what I mean? For that matter, you could have just let him walk and get somebody else. Now, granted, he's going to be, no matter if he starts or comes off the bench, he's going to be a vital player or, a key piece to what they're doing. But at the same time, we got to realize, as great as what McCain was doing, you can argue that some of those performances that Quentin had was better. And the only reason why I'm saying argue is because some people might say, but look at the competition, right? But when Jared McCain had 30 points, that came against the Brooklyn Nets, right? He was 11 for 20 shooting, 6 for 11 on threes. He played well. But again, that was against the Brooklyn Nets. But I will say this about him. He did have 34 and 10 against Cleveland without everyone playing, right? He played 38 minutes and he had 34 points and 10 assists. So I give him credit for that. But to me, it's just the size. It's just the size. And I feel bad for saying that, but I just get a little nervous when I see two smaller guards out there out there.
And we get it, people. They're much taller than me, at least, than us as well. But at the same time, for basketball, it is something that you worry about because we've seen even in other areas for the 76ers this year where they were a smaller team. When Paul George was the second tallest guy on the court, kind of what that brought them. And now you're talking about a backcourt that could have Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. That's going to be a work in progress to me throughout the year. And I think it's going to move a little bit slower than a lot of people are anticipating. I still believe that he'll come in and be a good player, but the defensive side of the ball is something they're going to have to work on, and that's going to come with game experience, seeing if they don't get blown by these bigger guards. So with Jared McCain, to me, he is not a starter, but we'll keep on this topic here.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say this, y'all, because I know there are some people who be like, well, look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They have a small backcourt. Yes, that is true, but they also have the defensive player of the year in Evan Mobley back there. They also have him, who's 7 foot. They have another 7-footer, and they just have a big front line. So, and they're defensive-minded players that they have behind them. So you're able to take chances. You're able to do certain things when you got guys back there that's going to block shots and defend you well and do things. So that's the difference from what the Sixers have right now. Because yes, Joel Embiid, we don't know what he's going to be like, right? We just don't. We can't say that. Paul George was underwhelming this season. So, that's the question mark right then and there. And that's why I don't think it's going to work.
And also, too, next year, we don't know how healthy they're going to be, but also, will they have to sit on back-to-backs again? What is that going to look like? And do you really want to put yourself in that situation when everybody else behind you is a question mark as well? It's not as stature on the defensive side of things. That can definitely cause some worry. But let us know in the comments what you feel about Jared McCain, if you like him as a starter or coming off as the sixth man off the bench and that spark. But we still got so much more to touch on here on Locked On 76ers. We teased it earlier, the Abu Dhabi games we will be discussing later on in the show, so make sure you stay tuned to see who the 76ers will play for that. In addition, we haven't been able to touch on Andre Drummond, what his impact could be with the Philadelphia 76ers, in addition to being that rim protector and the best rebounder in the league, according to him. So we will touch on that and more on the other side right here on Locked On 76ers. And we do have to tell you about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Sometimes this happens to me, especially if you're away for the weekend or with family, and it's like, oh boy, maybe spent a little bit too much money that I didn't even realize. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track, especially if it's a coffee here, a coffee there, or a snack here, a snack there. It definitely can be tough. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery and people. It was not good. You're talking after work, trying to come home, relax, just order a little bit out in terms of food delivery, and that can definitely add up over time. Now I definitely budget smarter and save more, all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. So make sure you go check that out today. Once again, that's at monarchmoney.com. So Andre Drummond, somebody who was a little bit banged up this year as well. Keith, what's your confidence in him to be able to possibly come back with this team and be the rim protector that they need behind Joel Embiid?
I don't. It's kind of tough to say, right? Just because it's your foot, and he tried coming back. He banged up his foot, and no one knows how he banged it up, but people think they know how because it's crazy. He gets ejected from the game. Next thing you know, he goes into the locker room, and then he comes back and he plays. And then all of a sudden, he has a foot issue, and everybody thinks that maybe he may have hit something, kicked something, did this and that, but nobody's saying whatever happened, right? But here's the thing that cost him, and partly because they were tanking, right?
Right.
But he missed the final 17 games of the season. He played in 40 games. He started in 23 of those 40 games. Now, a lot of that had to do with Joel, not playing, and we all knew that, this and that. But some of the games he didn't start because they wanted to go with a smaller lineup with Yabusele, right? Now, here's the thing about Drummond. I have more confidence in him coming back and being in that role than I would have to say that Joel Embiid coming back playing at an extremely high level. And the reason being is, but the only reason why I'm saying that is because I feel like his foot issue isn't as bad as a knee issue and the stuff that Paul George has. So that's not a knock on those two players. It's just that in my eyes, I feel like he could have played. He just didn't. Now, this is the one thing that people are going to point out. He was a two-time All-Star. He came here. He was supposed to – everybody expected him to be the man, right? Because the last time that Andre Drummond was here, everyone fell in love with him. Everybody loved him. They were upset. They were mad when he was traded. So he averaged 7.3 points last year, which is the second lowest of his career. He averaged 7.8 rebounds, which was the third lowest. However, he compiled those numbers in 18.8 minutes. So he was one of the league's top rebounders per 36 minutes at 14.9. To me, that was a major indicator of his excelling in this role. So to me, if Joel Embiid comes back and Joel Embiid is healthy, you know what? And if Andre Drummond is healthy, I know he's getting older and whole nine, but what do you want him to do? You want him to grab rebounds. You want him to have such a rim protection, right? Hopefully, if you're the 76ers, you got guys like Quentin Grimes. You have guys like Jared McCain, and then whoever they draft in the first round pick, if they get that, if it's a wing player, these are going to be guys who they're going to look for to provide the offense. And the thing is, as much as everybody is acting like, nah, don't bring them back, don't bring them back, don't bring them back. Well, he holds the cards. So because he has a player option, right, that he could pick up. He has until January 29th to pick up a $5 million player option. And if he feels like June 29th, if he feels like no one's going to do that, give him that more money than that, well, you best believe he's coming back. So to me, it's one of those things where if I'm just asking him to rebound, do a little bit of things, I'm keeping him on the roster because how else? It's not like I can get rid of him. That's just me.
I've been up and down about Andre Drummond because I see the reaction and understand it when people say, get rid of him, they don't want him anymore, wash up, whatever it may be. But this is the thing that I don't think people understand. The way that Andre Drummond can play and is supposed to be utilized was very overutilized last season. Granted, I don't think he was the player that he was the last time he was with them, but you're looking at somebody that is just supposed to be a backup for Joel Embiid, go in there, rim protect, and go get rebounds. But when you have a center in Joel Embiid who is injury prone, who has been injured, who has to sit out back-to-back games, then yeah, Andre Drummond isn't necessarily the player that maybe you want out there. But are you going to waste time to go search for that person when you are still relying on your team and your franchise to be on Joel Embiid? So I like Andre Drummond for that reason, because if Joel Embiid can come back healthy, Drummond is supposed to be the guy that he's set up to be. Go out there, rebound, rim protect. In addition, I got a chance to talk to him when he was at the Blue Coats game. I also think that he's a very good vet for Adem Bona to have as well. And I know people might say, well, that doesn't matter. Who cares? This, that, and the other. It's similar to how we talked about Kyle Lowry before. Adem Bona is a young, raw player who we saw really good glimpses of. He's a little on the smaller side in terms of being that true backup center guy. But I do think that Andre Drummond is somebody good for Adem Bona to have to be able to help him out in the locker room in terms of growing and developing as well. So I like Andre Drummond because at the end of the day, Keith, he's not supposed to play half or even more of the game. He's just supposed to go in there and back up Joel Embiid and not see that plus minus go down drastically.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And you're right. I think that he was overexposed this season because, you're right, exactly right. Like his job was just to defend and rebound and let other people do the scoring when he was out there, right? That was when Tyrese Maxey was supposed to step up. That's when Paul George was supposed to step up. Maxey did his job. George, sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't, right? Kelly Oubre. But what happens is when those guys got injured, he had to become more of a offensive threat, and he's not at this stage of his career. You know what I mean? Like he could run the floor, he could get putbacks, he could do stuff like that, but he's not the guy that he was years ago. But what he can do is he can bring that energy and things like that.
And to me, and I know people aren't going to like this, but if you were really, really worried about Joel Embiid's productivity and that he won't be able to go out there on the floor, maybe depending where you end up in this draft, you look at a center. And I know people say, do not draft a backup if you're going to be that high. But at the end of the day, if you are looking for somebody to be more of a permanent backup that can play a lot of time because Joel Embiid's going to be hurt and knocked down and injured, then you got to look elsewhere for that because that is not Andre Drummond from that standpoint. So I would like to see just Joel Embiid be healthy and actually get through a season healthy. And that's going to be the test for next year. And then beyond that, we will wait and see. It might be an oh boy situation from there, waiting to see the health of Joel Embiid. But the Abu Dhabi games are going to be something we'll discuss before we send things off because we don't know if we're going to see Joel Embiid or Paul George or who we'll see in the preseason for the 76ers. So we will be able to break that down a little bit on the other side right here on Locked On 76ers. Okay, so the 76ers, October 2nd and October 4th in the Abu Dhabi games against no other than the New York Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson. My, oh my, Keith, I don't know how much I like this if you're Philadelphia because I don't see Joel Embiid, Paul George, those guys being ready to play in these games. And now it's all going to get hyped up and excited. It's the fourth consecutive year they're doing this. And it's just not going to look good for the 76ers if Embiid and Paul George can't be out there, which I really don't think they're going to rush them back to be from that standpoint.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you this. My first year on the beat was 2013-14 season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first year of the process.
Right.
So we go to Bilbao, Spain, and then we go to Manchester, England, right? So when they go to Bilbao, Spain, they play this team called Bilbao Basket. And it was like the place was sold out. Everyone was hyped up. The Sixers traded Drew Holiday. They got rid of everyone else. They were highlighting players who weren't even on the team, like at the billboards and all that other stuff, right? It was crazy. It was crazy. So the fact that, and I know people are going to say that, but the fact that Tyrese Maxey is going to most likely play,
right?
And let's see some other people, are going to play. You have to understand this. They had no one. They had no one there. It was ridiculous. And it was kind of like, they won the game, but we're talking about like an overseas team, like in Spain, and they beat them 106-104. It was like, what was the guy's name? Oh my gosh. He was the center. Oh my God, he played for he was the first overall pick for the Washington Wizards, who played with Jordan. Jordan drafted him. Man, it's crazy.
Huh? But I'll have to check here, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, so Jordan drafts this dude. He played for the Sixers. Like, he was in the doghouse. He was on the team, but he wasn't nowhere to be seen. He never, showed up that season. I think they ended up getting rid of him. But they basically had billboards of this dude around town, outside of the arena. It was just ridiculous. You go in the arena, it was crazy. So I don't know. And to me, I get it. We don't know what the status is going to be for these guys, and it's going to be bad, right? Probably. But at the same time, it can't be any worse than that game. It cannot be any worse than that game at all.
You're definitely going to see probably Tyrese Maxey, right? Jared McCain, if he's ready to go, that could be a good game for him to come back, get his feet back in. Quentin Grimes.
I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The guy was Kwame Brown. Kwame Brown.
There you go. That rings a bell. Yeah,
and they had billboards of Kwame Brown. and nothing against Kwame, right? Kwame played in the league for a long time, this and that. But that's who they had billboards of because they didn't have anyone else.
Yeah, well, they, at least on the Knicks side, they'll most likely, we'll see if Jalen and Kat and all them play too, but they'll be able to hype this one up. At least people know who a Dembona is from that standpoint on the 76ers, and Jared McCain, and Lonnie Walker, even if he plays with the 76ers. There's been a lot of love around those guys that are known throughout this end of the year in terms of this interview process for Philadelphia. But yeah, it may not be that bad, but it is going to be interesting because what's going to happen is everybody is waiting to see when Joel Embiid will play, when Paul George will play back out there. I said, it's interesting to bring this up too, because I said the other day that I would love to see them play in a preseason game because we talked about them wanting to get team chemistry. And we kind of reacted to that in the sense of they may play one preseason game. If that, maybe they'll play a half. Don't see these would be the ones that they'll go out there and play. But nevertheless, yeah, Keith, I don't think it'll be that bad because at least Tyrese Maxey's itching to get out there. You hope to see Jared McCain out there, Kelly Oubre possibly. So there's a lot of players that people will actually know and billboards that people will actually know in the NBA.
Yeah, in regards to Joel Embiid, I don't have any, because it's something I didn't think of to look up. But I believe his first year he played in the first preseason game. I remember they went to they played at UMass and he played in that game. It was funny, he was nervous. He was like, "Oh, I'm nervous, this and that, the whole nine." But aside from that, I can't count how many preseason games that in the first preseason game that he played in. And a lot of times, if you notice, you look at LeBron and guys like that, they don't play in the first one. Then they come back afterwards. Now, who knows? And it's so, especially coming off of his injury, do you really think that he really wants to go out there and play? Now, here's the thing. The team will, from what my understanding is, that the team will go over there a couple of days early, and then they'll have a couple practices. So, he will, if everything's right, he should be over there with the team. But, even if he was 100% healthy, I don't know if he would play in this game. And to be honest with you, I don't know who's going to play in the game for the other team too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been better.
Yeah.
it would have been better if they would have had these games. You know how they have like regular season games, like a one-off in January? To me personally, that would have been a great game. Just have these two. If you want to have them play 2 games, have a 2-game, like have them play 2 games in January over there, and then we can see Joel go up against Karl Anthony Towns, right? Yeah, and do it that way, in my opinion.
Right, because too, with the Knicks, you're probably going to want to preserve Cat after the playoffs to make sure that, he's good to go for next season. Jalen Brunson, of course, he's their main guy from that standpoint. So yeah, I don't think we see those guys either, but it will be interesting too, because the thing is, Joel Embiid's not going to want to come back for game 1 of a preseason. And if Cat were to play for some crazy reason, that's definitely not a game we want to bring him back against after coming off an injury, not playing at all last year. So it is interesting, this matchup, but the Abu Dhabi games, we'll see some of the 76ers. We'll see some of the New York Knicks as well. So once again, that will be on October 2nd and Saturday, October 4th.
Hey, look, the funny part about that, so look, they played Bilbao Basket, right? Mm-hmm. And they beat them by 2 points. And that was on like October the 6th, 2013. So then the next day, get up, I fly to Manchester. The one thing I will say about Bilbao, Spain is they had a huge IKEA, and people like, go to the IKEA. They had like McDonald's and all this other stuff. But the cab drivers were driving Mercedes, like white Mercedes. It was crazy. The cabbies out there, right? But so then from there, we go to Manchester, England, right? So the Sixers lost that game by 4 points. But that was a joke of a game, too. Remember I told you I went to a preseason game and they had Kevin Durant playing point guard against the Sixers?
Yes.
That was the game.
Great.
The Sixers were so bad, they had KD playing point guard. And I don't even know if Westbrook didn't play. A couple other people didn't play. But it was just ridiculous. It was like, okay, is this what we're doing? So we'll see. We'll see.
That we will. Some great stuff there, Keith, as always. And it is going to be interesting, too, because as we alluded to, I would like to see Tyrese play in this. Jared McCain, I'm sure, will try to get back. But other than that, we don't know yet. It could be a close game with some of similar players we saw in the interview season of the 76ers and the Quentin Grimes, Lonnie Walker, things like that, depending who the 76ers are able to get back with free agency as well. But once again, these preseason games, Thursday, October 2nd, and Saturday, October 4th. So I'm not saying get too excited for the Abu Dhabi games because you're not going to see Joel Embiid or Paul George most likely. But hey, 76ers basketball in terms of game style is being released October 2nd and the 4th as well. Well, you guys can tune in on our free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com for everything in the offseason. And you can also win some really good prizes up until April 30th. A $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports game, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. Get exclusive insights into free agency, draft coverage, and team updates delivered straight to your inbox. Join the Locked On 76ers podcast for trusted coverage every day. Subscribe to enter today by clicking the link in the description. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you guys next time.